What does writing a marketable screenplay mean?
Great question. Probably one of my favorite questions. I often say that you can have a great idea, super high concept. And I think I've referenced previously, I've heard story ideas that go, oh my God, that is great. I want to option it before I even read it. And then I read it and it's not well executed. So if you have a great concept that's not well executed, chances are that it will not sell. If you have a high concept that is well executed, you have a much better chance of it getting sold. Conversely, you can have a project that is totally not high concept, but if it is beautifully executed, it then becomes marketable. So for example, if we take a movie like Juno, and I'll define high concept. High concept is The Hangover. A bunch of guys, you know from the movie poster, I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of your audience knows what high concept is, but there are those who don't, and it's terminology we use a lot, and it's basically where the concept is very big and immediately recognizable, like from a movie poster. So The Hangover, and it's the guys are, you know, we all know it's The Hangover and it's Vegas. You can tell from the movie poster and they all look like they're a wreck. And it's the 48 hours before Bachelor is to walk down the aisle. At his bachelor party, they go to Vegas and his friends lose him and they have now and don't have any recollection of what happened the night before and have 48 hours to find him before the wedding. That's one example of big concept. Speed is a big concept. Anything that's based on a brand like Transformers that has an immediately recognizable built-in audience brand value. So the opposite of that would be a movie like Slumdog Millionaire. In fact, most of the movies that win the Oscars are not high concept. Slumdog Millionaire, $1 Million Baby. Okay, if you were to pitch this, I'm going to do not justice to the movie, but if you think about it, like trying to get a studio to, this is a story about a girl who comes from a trailer park and she wants to be a boxer and she's mentored by this older dude and she winds up injuring herself to the point where she becomes paralyzed on the way down and she paralyzed from the waist down and basically asks him as an act of kindness to do euthanasia. So she does, okay, who would buy that? Slumdog Millionaire. It was a great story, great movie. No known American actor, but you did have an A-list director, Danny Boyle. So that is what definitely helped get it made, and it was also based on a book. Sling Blade, another one, magnificently written script. And some of these movies would definitely be harder to get done today. But you take Juno, family drama, teenage girl gets pregnant. I mean, really, that used to be like an after-school special, or no disrespect, more of a TV movie than a feature that would build such a big following. This year, Lady Bird. That's not a high concept, rite of passage with the young girl, but it was so well written and it resonated so much with people, the mother-daughter relationship, the notion of growing up in a small town. And so what makes a script marketable, the script like Juno and with Lady Bird, the quality of the writing, the freshness of the characters, the truthfulness of the characters, that then becomes marketable. So that comes down to me saying, write your best work. I don't know any executives, other people may. I don't know any executives who have optioned a script if they didn't care for the dialogue, the writing, they didn't think it was, structure maybe is the least offensive. It can be a good idea and maybe the structure's not great, but the characters are compelling, the situation's compelling, and the dialogue is good. And I just don't know anyone who buys scripts if those elements aren't there. So therefore, I think if you are going to make a profession as a screenwriter, it's not an easy profession at all. But you have to roll up your sleeves and really get in there. And I read, I'm working right now with someone who just graduated from film school, and it's quite, his writing's really good. There are some elements that I think needed to be much more pronounced, what the underlying theme is and the purpose of the journey, and some things that didn't track with the characters. But there's a lot of talent there, but I didn't think it's ready quite to take out yet. But he's doing some work now, and he'll get there. I mean, there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of writing that really isn't very strong. And I think the biggest death to a writer is to not be able to take notes well, and I don't mean just any notes, to be open to constructive feedback, and to want to put in their dues. So I think that's the biggest killer, as well as trying to please too many people and not listening to your own inner voice. And I just say, in terms of marketability, what gets agents' attention, producers, studio networks, is that you'll hear a strong voice, that there's something really fresh about a person who has a point of view, and that the character writing, Quentin Tarantino is such a strong voice. And I would say that Greta Gerwig, has a strong voice, and we could go on, but I can't think of their names, but yeah.
And even going back to Lady Bird, just briefly, we went to see The Post, and unfortunately the movie didn't play, so we all had to leave the theater. But I talked to a man who was maybe in his late 50s, and he said he loved Lady Bird. So here's someone that it's not even really, you would think that wouldn't be the audience for it. But he said, and he was recommending it to the people he was with, and we were kind of talking about it. So you can see how he somehow resonated with that voice.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great example. The truthfulness of that mother-daughter relationship, which wasn't pretty, how they got in each other's faces and talked to each other, but it was truthful. And we know that they did love each other, and it was so touching towards the latter part of the movie when the mother, who was really kind of really tough with her daughter, and the daughter didn't feel like she really loved her, even liked her, and then we saw that she was trying to write a letter to her and crumbled it up like 30 times. That's another form of love, versus this would be the boring way of doing it, and not so truthful to the human experience would be, well, I love you, maybe I'm hard on you, but maybe I'm doing it for your own good, or maybe I have my own issues, so I'm not really able to love that well. Versus the simple, beautiful act that she was crumpling up letters because she wanted to find the right words and couldn't. That says so much more than anything that's on the nose and obvious.
Right, in the whole part of coming from a smaller town, even though it's California's capital, but there is a small town feel to Sacramento for anybody who's driven through it, and wanting to really reinvent herself.
Yes.
She didn't want to go by her given name. She wanted to be a writer on the East Coast. Right. It wasn't okay to be a writer from California, and just wanting to reinvent herself. And I think everyone can identify with
versus, and that's just really wonderful writing, versus I want to be a writer, I'm tired of being in the small town, I want to reinvent myself. So that's such a good example of why, because some people say, when I get the feedback about not to write expositionally, what do you mean? What people can talk about? What, you don't like people to be direct? Sure, there's a time and place, and sometimes people are direct, but most of the time they're circling, trying to figure out their lives, who they are, and so on. And that was a very beautiful example of that.
Yeah, I agree.